That is, that's awesome. Great. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, welcome to the meeting. A couple of points of order. Masks need to remain on through the meeting. If you have cell phones, please silence those so they're not going off and ringing during the meeting. The microphone setup should be able to pick up your voice while you're sitting, so you don't have to. There's no need to leave your seat to come and do anything here. So if we're ready, we'll follow the same procedures that we've done before, which was to have Joe start with his, Marshall will come in with the budget portion, and we'll go into questions.
I hope you can all hear me through this mask. So this November, Raymond's going to vote on the withdrawal. It's an important choice for the education of pre-K through grade 12. Raymond has been part of the RSU with Wyndham for the past 10 years. And this process was brought forth by Raymond citizens who believe that Raymond will have more control, a better educational opportunity for the students, and the return to when Raymond was a single-member school unit. Raymond is once again in charge of their future with their own school committee. Currently, Raymond is in the minority position on the RSU board. Raymond's members do not have enough votes to stop or overturn any decision on Wyndham initiatives. Look at the Wyndham initiatives in the bus garage that Raymond taxpayers pay for, but get no return from since the buses are kept in Raymond, and Raymond drivers do not get to use the locker room. Wyndham needs middle school space for students, yet they refuse to use the space available in Raymond at Jordan Small, choosing to lease portables instead at a cost to taxpayers. These are the reasons for withdrawal. Demonstrates that we are a one-way RSU, not taking a holistic approach to utilizing available space. Withdrawal will protect Raymond schools when budgets get challenging and consolidation is proposed. We functioned very well as a standalone unit in the past. Raymond will maintain school choice and still have a contract with Wyndham so students can continue to attend school there. The budget committee in the withdrawal process believes Raymond can add pre-K while reducing costs. Just so you know, Raymond sends 18% of students to the RSU and pays 36% of the cost. How did we get here? Wyndham wanted to build a new middle school and not send students to Raymond Jordan Small Middle School. Raymond taxpayers are going to have to pay for the middle school. The RSU board was looking to close down Jordan Small Middle School as an option. An agreement was reached between the Raymond Select Board and the RSU. Raymond would pay a lesser percentage in total costs, because the original agreement we were paying 45% of the cost. Our total student percentage has dropped. Any new construction would be paid for by the town where the construction was taking place. Wyndham would pay any new construction or repairs in Wyndham, and Raymond would do the same here in Raymond. How did we get here? Wyndham decided to build a new garage for Public Works and lease part of that garage to the RSU for bus storage and maintenance. Indirectly, the taxpayers of Raymond were going to be subsidizing a new garage built in Wyndham for the town, not the RSU. The RSU purchased modulars to use instead of sending students to Jordan Small Middle School. The Raymond Select Board asked to meet with the RSU board and their attorney. They were told there would be no meeting and no questions were answered as to the scheme of the building of building this new garage. This caused a petition to be taken out and a vote on withdrawal to occur. If the town votes to withdraw, Raymond will guarantee current staffing levels and allow all staff to continue with their current benefits. I think it's important to realize that a lot of questions have been around the budget. The budget was developed using the RSU budget, and the proposal is to take whatever is in that RSU budget and move it to Raymond and have the same budget levels. The budget for withdrawal provides for a school resource officer and free breakfast and lunch for all K-4 students. It also includes all programs currently at RSU 14. The cost-sharing contract is up for negotiation. Currently, it is 65% Wyndham, 35% Raymond. Raymond pays a much higher share financially than is the proportion of students. As I said, we only have 18% of students in the whole RSU. Raymond's share is well over $10 million and growing, and Marshall will tell you later that the average increase has been 4.7% a year in the school budget, while the Raymond school population has not grown much at all. Raymond will always continue to pay more because of our state property valuation. Since the funding formula is based on valuation, land valuation, Raymond's valuation is a little over $1 billion. Wyndham's about 1.6 to 1.7 billion. If Raymond votes to withdraw, maybe there will be a sense of community, and parents and community members will volunteer more time. Now, this statement has caused all kinds of consternation. Raymond's always had a very good volunteer program from parents. If Raymond votes to withdraw, a new school board will be voted in January to prepare for July 1st start date. There will be a 10-year contract with Wyndham High School, so Wyndham High School will be the school of guaranteed acceptance. There will still be school choice available, so students in Raymond can go to Carrabassett Valley, Hebron, NYA, any other public school that can reach a superintendent's agreement. To date, 39 school units have withdrawn from their districts and operating their own LEAs. There will be a sufficient budget to hire staff in order to ensure an appropriate transition. And this is when we get to the budget, and I'll turn it over to Marshall.
You can all see that. I need to preface my comments by saying that this budget is a pro forma budget that takes effect on July 1st, 2021. 2021, that's correct. And it is taken from the RSU 14 version 9 budget as they approved, I believe, late April of this year. I had a difficulty doing this because all my budgeting experience in the past has always been from actual to budget. This is a budget to budget. I think it's as accurate as it can be. I will say that administration has had an opportunity to look at it. They have recommended a couple of small changes, I believe, and I will integrate that as I see them. So, going forward, secondary costs, which is grades 9 to 12, including special ed, without parentheses, 8, have been reduced to eliminated state tuition, which is going around, right now it's $10,753, and it'll go to, I estimate, 11.4, based on their average percent increase. School choice will remain in effect. I believe we have 2 students at Hebron now, there is others at North Carolina Academy and so forth. The average expense to the town of Raymond is an additional $10,000 per year to accommodate those students. The students that, to my knowledge, will be 2 elective choice for the school year 21-22. There are 8 in addition. And those are the numbers that I have given $140,000 has been added for the cost of a school resource officer for both campuses. I understand there's been quite a bit of back and forth between Kevin Joyce, the sheriff of Cumberland County, and the Windsor Police Chief. There is a school resource officer in place now. The $140,000 represents a sole employee for the town of Raymond. Assuming a 3-year contract, it's $140,000, and then it drops to $95,000 for years 2 and 3. Kevin Joyce wants us to buy the car. $180,000 has been added to nutrition to provide free breakfast and lunch for K-4 grades. These folks are really good. Sorry. This has been estimated 220 students for $4.54 a day for 177 days. This does not include any refunds for free and reduced coming back from the federal government. This is a gross amount. The student budget submitted by Raymond administration remain in full effect. That means that the Raymond administration produced 2 cost centers, 51 and 71, representing Raymond Elementary and Jordan Small School. I made 2 adjustments to those. One, in RES, I took out $53,000, which was, my understanding, was a one-time cost representing security enhancements. And the other one was the SRO, that brought into the line above. Number 5, subtractions have been made from the RSU V9 maintenance and facilities accounts to eliminate some non-recurring costs which will be expended for the 2021. I was told which ones they were, I forget what they are now, but they were one-time expenses. It's my understanding that there is no capital budget for either RES or Jordan Small for 21-22. Additions to staff have been partially carried in the pre-withdrawal expenses and increased in the budget to reflect those positions that would be hired after 7/1 of 21. We would obviously need to hire a superintendent of schools, a special ed director, and a business manager before this takes effect, but those have to happen after the town approval of that happens. Those expenses are carried. The school board assumption, this is an assumption on my part, I assumed 5 seats. The town of Raymond has several boards, with the exception of one they're all from. The Raymond School Department has existed before merger in 2009 at 5. So that is the reason I picked 5 members. If the town school board wishes to expand to 7, that would be a choice of the superintendent. I believe 5 is the technical number. There's no longer any shared employees. I understand that there are 2 shared employees. I've made arrangements in this budget to accommodate them if they choose to come full-time to Raymond. If not, then the position is, funding is there for a person that may want to come full-time. I prefer not to get into positions or names. Okay, this is a preliminary budget that takes effect on July. I have to take the head one. Okay. I'm sorry. I want to make sure it's accurate as I possibly can. I'm sorry?
You can't see it. You can't see it.
Can't see it through the fog either, Sean. There's a pre-K kindergarten program that I put into the budget, $132,005. That's a space for 20 students and 3 staff. There's been a lot of discussion about 20 students and 3 staff. I understand the school limit is 16 per room. I'm over budgeted by 4 students. There's staff of 3, I assume 1 lead teacher, 2 assistants. That gives you a staff student ratio of about 5 to 1. I think in pre-K, that's probably appropriate. I can't see doing 10 to 1 in that. The Raymond Elementary School budget has been brought forward from the RSU unit. The Jordan Small Middle School has been brought forward from secondary tuition is calculated by, we have estimated 180 students starting the 21-22 year at the state rate of 11,500, plus a factor for special ed. I was told that a reasonable factor for special ed is $10,000 per identified students. I carried 17% of our student body as identified. I apologize, I may be using the wrong word here, that was the word that I used 10 years ago when I was in the business. So, identified. I realize that on one student you may spend 20, and on another student you may spend 3. It's an aggregate. It was given to me, and I agree with it from administration. Co-curricular is just carried forward. Co-curricular, my understanding is that activities that happen within the school, math club, social clubs, whatever, extracurricular or sports. The security, as I said before, has been carried on 140,000. That's the SRO. Technology is a budget that we received from Woodbury Associates, which is the house technology department. CIA, curriculum instruction and investment. I need to make a change on that. I need to make several other changes on that, but that one will change that book by 22,000 to include the community development person. Nutrition, 180,000 of that in. School board for 50,000, 5 people plus liability insurance. Office of the superintendent would be one person basically, plus things like liability insurance and so forth. The business office would be one person plus any software that's required for that. The superintendent is in the technology budget. The operation and maintenance of buildings, that's carried forward pretty much. Student transportation is an estimate that I made. I am aware of the fuel usage for the school system, 17,600 gallons with a mix of diesel and gas. Calculated that out at $3.50 a gallon. In January, when I did this, it was $3.05. Nobody knew what the fuel prices were going, so I bumped it up. So I carried it at 17,600 gallons at $3.50 plus 101,000 for maintenance and repairs. That includes oils and tires, and the rest of that would be salaries. I have the salary list for the support staff. Special education is a direct fall from VMI. I do not want to get into that area. I have a lot of respect for special ed and the needs there, so I carried it. Whatever the error should put in there is additions to staff. These are staff members that will be hired to start performing duties after July 1st. Talked about a special ed director, a business manager, and a superintendent. They would all be before the start. After the start date would be a facilities manager, transportation manager, a technology person, and a food service, and a couple perhaps for special ed. I'm not sure what the special ed demand will be. Nobody sure. And a contingency of $200,000. There's been a discussion about whether we could hire a 3/5 superintendent or not. There's two camps in that argument. To be safe, I put $100,000 in addition in contingency, so if the school board can find that they cannot hire a 3/5, one is reserved. So that's budget summary. Again, this is a budget that takes effect July 1, 2021. It is not a concrete document. We have made a couple of changes. Administration has recommended that I make a couple more changes. So if we can get into the financial impact, financial impact, the budget position is that we do nothing. The RSU for the last 6 years has been averaging 4.7 increases per year. So if I do the simple math on that, it comes up to 11.235 million in expense for the town of Raymond, 21-22. Estimated budget after withdrawal is estimated at 9.632 million. That takes out the assistant superintendent, bulk of the assistant superintendent, the Katahdin School, and a realignment of some of the facilities costs. Existing programs, and Teresa may want to address this later, existing programs, if they're there now, they're there later. The add-ins for the budget of the resource officer and the free cost of breakfast and lunch. I don't know whether you read it this morning or not. There was an article about RSU 16, and they've come up with they need $100,000 to fund the lunch program. Well, it's very, the article is very interesting, but this will covers any expenses on that. So the total budget cost I estimate for 21-22 is about 9.9 million. The savings in working the budget is about 1.6 million. There are costs that will occur to the town before this budget takes effect. But that was not my charge. My charge was to create an operating budget, 7.1 and 3 under the bus. It's all yours.
Questions?
Dan, you want to come up here? I can move down and move your chair if you're going to come up.
So Sarah Davis, Tenny Hill Road. So I just have a couple of questions. So on the special education, you said you were given that number. Can you tell me, I don't know anything about special education, but can you tell me where that number comes from and how that's figured?
If you take a look at the version 9, I'm sorry, the RSU 14 version 9 budget that is on the website, there is a category of cost center or directorship, whatever the word is, I think it's directorship, called student services. I use the word special ed, they use the word student services. If you run through that, there are instructions on how to read that budget. And if you run through that budget and pull out everything that has a 100 or a 110 on it, and I can explain to you how to decode that, it's on the computer, you will see the OT, the PT, the speech, the psych, and all those costs in there. I believe that they put health in that category, all that is just from column A to column B.
Okay, I thought you said that you reduced it and you instead used a 10,000 number that you were given, the 10,000 per student that you were given. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but that's what I thought you said.
For 9 to 12.
Okay,
The K-8, or pre-K-8.
Okay. Got it.
From column A to column B.
got it.
Secondary was 10,000 per student. That was given to me by administration.
That was given to you by the RSU administration.
I'm sorry?
The RSU 14 administration gave you the 10,000.
Administration was 13.
Okay, that's super helpful. Is it okay if I go one more? So the capital budget, I've never really do a lot of budgeting. I've never really seen no capital budget. And I can understand that maybe in 21-22 there's no capital budget because the facilities are in good shape, but there's got to be a capital budget. So how do you project out, capital expenses? Something's going to happen. The roof's going to have to be fixed. How do you talk about the impact of that?
Capital budget to me is an expense that is amortized out over more than 5 years. 5 years or more. I am not aware of any anticipated costs. I have been told that there is no capital budget for either building anticipated. I can't go any further than that.
I've never heard anywhere budgeting without some capital cost for facilities, right? That's just crazy.
Raymond voted to take out a bond for the RSU. So all the capital improvements are in that bond. I can't remember what it is for Raymond. It's $1.5 million, something like that.
Chris will be here and he will.
And so,
So
so when you talk about the impact to taxpayers, are you telling that story too? Because that's like the total
that's a
impact.
0% loan.
Sure, but it
And
won't have to be.
remember, it's forgivable.
Also forgivable.
It's a forgivable loan.
No interest, 0%, 0% interest over 5 years. And they've done some really good things at both schools, capital projects, security enhancements. And they got revolving renovation funds from the state to do it. So it was really brilliant, I think, in my.
I don't believe it's forgivable, but
I was
could
gonna
be
say, I can't
wrong.
imagine a bond is forgivable. It might be
Half of
forgivable.
it, half of it.
Half, okay,
Half
some
of
of
it
it
is
is, thank you,
forgivable.
thank you.
Half of it they have to repay at 0 interest.
And I don't think last time, and I don't know if Marshall put it into, I know you needed to do some updates on the budget. I'm not sure if that has been added in, the repayment of that, or if it will be in the next one.
It's not in this one. I had a conversation with Chris earlier. 90,000 was just voted at your meeting, so that's not included in that. But Marshall went
Yeah,
over.
I know you said you needed to do some.
So the payment would be 90,000 from that.
All right, let me explain one thing. Started building this budget in January of this year. I took a couple months off in April for a personal reason, and then I started building it again. I have no knowledge of things that happened after June 1st.
Oh, I know.
It's just getting the whole story, not
I
any
mean,
cubicle
some of
word.
some of the big infrastructure items, it was work done on the roof last year. Asbestos removal has just been recently done. Boilers are either complete now or in process. So there's, so a lot of those major items have now been covered. So, looking at the future building budgets, you'll start to look at that, but part of that, you'll have to reassess all the major infrastructure items to see if you need to start, from a capital standpoint, looking at that going forward.
So that'll have to be built sort of bottom up with the takeover and the assessment. That makes sense. Thank you. No, that's it. Thank you.
No, thank you, Sarah.
My name's Brenda Bentley. I live on Colonial Drive. I want to read something. I put my thoughts together because I've been a little frustrated after the few meetings that I've watched on television and then I'll answer some questions. In my professional life as a police officer, I serve a local community, and due to that, I'm held to a higher standard of behavior because my behavior reflects on how the community views me. I make this comment because in all honesty, I feel the same way about the elected officials in this community where I live and pay taxes. I have been disappointed by the tone, response, and accusations being made by members of the committee, especially those of you that are elected. And you were elected by the citizens of Raymond. Members of the committee should respect and understand the emotions surrounding many of the statements and questions being asked. Because of the subject matter, the children in this community are our future, and I believe it's our obligation to provide them with the best opportunity possible. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that our needs of our students are ever changing, and the reason it's called student services is because it includes mental health and comprehensive social and emotional skills. Often these changes cost money, and I'm impressed as a mother of a student who receives special education services that the school board has acknowledged these changes and has been willing to put money towards enhancing programs that are offered to our students in the district. I think a withdrawal would be detrimental to the services that our students are currently being provided with. The district has acknowledged as well that the social and emotional needs of our students are imperative, especially with the times we are facing right now with COVID. I have lived in this community for 17 years. My children have attended the schools in Raymond for the past 8. Over that time, I've had many frustrations that have been addressed by the professionals within this district. The impact that our current superintendent has had on this district and the community is evident. For example, the former superintendent was not known by students within the district, but Superintendent Powell has been in his position for a short amount of time, and my daughter and son have already commented actually seeing him in the building. The superintendent is aware of the issues that still need to be addressed within this district, and in my opinion, is determined to move forward and build cohesion and consistency within the district. I think it's important for us to move forward and not to continue to rehash the past. None of us can change what has happened, but we can work together to move to the future. My first question, because I did reach out to Superintendent Mel, as I was provided with the budget that you said he signed off on, and the budget that he signed off on was $11.694 million, which is roughly $900,000 more than we currently spend as part of the district. And now I'm looking at the budget that you've provided here, that it's 9 something. So can you understand where the confusion is coming? You're telling me, I have the budget, I've gone through it line by line, about what you suggested that we do. And I'm looking for why, what was provided to the commissioner and the superintendent that he said was sufficient to run an SAU is not what's being provided to us now.
Can I answer that, please?
Sure.
Reason being is I had a conversation with Chris Howe before I came up regarding this whole budget thing. And one of the things that he explained to me, the first error was a typo. Marshall in his budget, I keep sucking this thing in, took the 1.8, carried it over. He actually typed 2.8 is what it is, but he still carried over the RES. Chris explained to me earlier before this meeting is that there are 2 budgets that are actually done for each school. One is an actual cost, one is a principal's version of putting it together, is what it is. So what he said is Joyce sitting down with Marshall and talking to Marshall about it, and I've already talked to Marshall about it, and he says it's something that could have very easily have been done if people don't fully understand this. But he said, he took one-on-one, he took like maybe a principal's version of it on one, and then an actual on the other school. And again, he said, Chris says it's a really easy mistake to make. And I think we have to understand that this is us working from a budget that's a proposed budget, that we don't have the access to all that information. And this is what we're trying to bring forward as a work budget is what it is. That would be the reason why there's a discrepancy between the 2. And Chris can explain some more of that when he shows up. But we did talk about that on the phone beforehand. And I just had a chance to talk to Marshall. Pardon me?
Are you fine if I continue to ask a few more questions, or Martin, did you have something? Do you have anything to add, or should we continue on my question?
My budget is based on the version that I guess approved by the school.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is the withdrawal agreement, the budget in the withdrawal agreement is $11,694,000. That is not the budget you're showing here. So that's why I'm saying, can you see where our confusion is? This document's on the webpage, right? That was provided to the Commissioner of Education as well as the Superintendent of our district. And so, I mean, it's almost a $2 million discrepancy. This is what Chris signed off on. This is what's in the withdrawal agreement, is this budget, the $11 million budget. The budget you're showing us here is $9 million, almost $10 million. So, I mean, I'm no mathematician, but those 2 numbers are drastically different. And
Right.
This is what he signed off.
We're at 11.7, 10.8. And Chris said they did do a workup. And Marshall, I haven't even had time to really talk to because I think the phone call with Chris was not even an hour before I came up here, is what it was. So that's why we're just understanding what that discrepancy is. And again, that $1 million was just a typo as far as moving that $2 million.
So it should have been 10 million. So the budget that was provided to the Commissioner should have been 10 million.
I can't make it, Chuck, sorry.
So the budget that should have been provided to the Commissioner of Education and to the Superintendent should have been $10,694,000.
Per that 2.8?
You are.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that one, sorry.
Can I just add something? In the negotiations of the withdrawal agreement, RSU was very clear that they were not endorsing the budget that was prepared. And there's language in the withdrawal agreement that RSU 14 does not prepare or review Exhibit F, which is the work product solely of the withdrawal committee. So I don't think that
Maybe I'm using the incorrect term. I'm not sure that was sufficient for that action.
I might jump in there. Chris has been very helpful. and all through the process. And I think that he actually gave us his estimate without some big factors in there of what we're going to be looking at for a budget. My experience in a number of these situations around the state is the budget is a draft. Marshall talks about it will go into effect at a certain date. The committee doesn't have access to all the resources Chris does. And, you know, I'd be inclined to, if he says, I think it's probably ought to be 10-7 or 11-6, he doesn't know everything we put in, I'd be inclined to take that pretty seriously. When we provided this to the commissioner, Marshall had not found that mistake. And once it goes into the commissioner, you know, you can't, at this point, that process is going on, and she knows it's an estimate, she knows it's a draft, she knows it's not gonna be the final. It's up to the school committee to make that decision, not to the withdrawal. My experience in most of these situations, the whole withdrawal is really about control, not really about saving money. And if you think we're going to go into this process and save lots of money, that's not realistic in my view, because you can't project what students are going to walk in your door and what their needs might be. So, I mean, you need to be prepared to address those things, but to sit here now and say it's going to be to this penny, you can't do it. Chris can't. His budget is an estimate. He knows his issues are going to change in the next school year. And coronavirus, what is that going to do for costs? And where are those resources coming from? And it's the same problem that if Raymond withdraws, they be facing that RSU 14 is facing, and every other school district in Maine. So, I wouldn't want you to walk away saying this is gospel, because it's not. It's intended to be a draft, a projection.
Believe me, I work for a city, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Budget's never
If I might just add something else, you know, what Marshall did was not in the blind. He had numerous meetings with school staff, with Chris, with others, people. So there was inputs from there. If something, and the fact is, if something didn't get communicated through properly, and if there is something that's missing, then it will be, we'll address that. The intent is not to take any services away from the students. The intent is not to take any staff away. That is, and it was built from that standpoint, so that anything that's there still remains there. So if there was something that was in some part of the budget that wasn't identified, that oh yes, you need to add that in. If they identify that to us, then we can work with that.
Just want to stress another point on that. Whatever budget Raymond administration came up with was verbatim.
I've just lived here long enough, so I remember having friends who have older students who had to go to town hall to get reams of paper so that they could print things for their students. And the fact that school was delayed often because the town couldn't get around to plowing the school lots. So those are things that concern me moving forward. Do we have the stability here at such a small community? I mean, what is the cost going to be of the special election for a school board? That should be a concern to taxpayers too. Our taxes are astronomical here for what we get, quite honestly.
Because our cost for a special election for something like that, because it's local, is about $3,000.
Okay, thank you for that.
And when you say taxes are astronomical, 83% of your taxes in the school.
Can I ask another clarifying question as well? So, the school board, you're saying will vote in January to choose them? They'll be put into place by July 1st.
January's an estimate.
I'm not sure how fast after the election the school
When it's good.
So
Literally,
we are firing the superintendent.
to answer that, if the election for the school board were January 5th, that school board can meet January 6th, as long as they swear in. So they can start work the day after the election.
And they would be part of the hiring process for the new superintendent.
It would have to be. It would not be a town responsibility.
Well, I'm just looking, by what you said, is they would start work July 1st. We're starting
January
school.
1st, January.
No, July
Because
1st,
July
is the
July 1st is when the budget starts, because that's the start of the fiscal year. The work will start as soon as, their work will start as soon as they're elected.
That's why we clarify.
You should also realize that the last time the two communities joined together, the pre-costs were about $500,000 or a little bit more. So they hired personnel to do everything, policy, to name it, insurances, etc. So what's not calculated in this budget are those transition costs. And I think there's been some estimates of those transition costs in the neighborhood of $600,000, about $600,000. So that, all those legal things and everything has to be done should Raymond withdraw. And then you'd have to hire your superintendent right away, and get your special ed director. So there's a lot of those transition costs that are not included in that budget. You should be aware of that.
This is July 1st budget, that's July 1st. The website has that information.
And that's why I just wanted to clarify the first, this is someone.
That's fine.
I won't monopolize, I have other questions.
So you say that it's increasing 4.7%. Do you anticipate that the Raymond increase would be less than that? Something, I mean, it has to be 3% minimum, right? For cost of living.
I've never heard that, sir. I've heard, I took the last 6 parish budget increases to the town rate.
Yeah.
It averages 4.7%, 4.692 to be exact. And I see no reason for that to vary. With the exception of.
You see, I'm sorry, I
I
see
see
no.
that, I do not see reasons for that to vary. With the exception of the impact on COVID, I think that's going to disrupt a whole lot of things. Looking at it for eco, it was 4.7 for the last 6 years. If it's 4.3 or 5.2, I have to use a number somewhere.
No, I know, but do you expect that to be similar in Raymond, that Raymond would increase 4.7? Or do you think you could have that to the 3?
I can't anticipate that because it's an RSU 14 budget, it's not a Raymond budget that we need to RSU. Whatever Raymond administration puts in their budget, it's total. And then the RSU comes back and says, town of Raymond, here, I'm going on 4.7.
But I think to get to the heart of what you're asking me, the local board would do a budget, the town, and it would be presented to the town would vote that. It depends on what they, what costs they have, what escalators are in there on contracts and things like that, where that goes. So would it be exactly 4.7, which is what, it's been averaging there? Probably not. But that's because that's an average number. But it would be looked at, all the same elements that are looked at in the RSU 14, but it was just looked at at the local level. Smaller subsets. So would it increase by the same amount, percentage? It depends.
But we know health insurance is going to increase, we know salary is going to increase. I mean, we have to anticipate, I would say 3% is a minimum that any company would anticipate. I was just curious if we thought there were savings to be had on that, or we thought we should anticipate a generally same increase. I get that, yes, it has to be voted on, yes, we have to create a budget, yes, it's this, I get that, I'm just, as a person, I have to think, right, about what does this mean for me, what does this mean for my kids? I have 2 kids in the school district, and that's all I think about every day. And all I think about every day is the people, right? I'm basically stuck with the people. And so what the most concerning thing to me is the idea of a special election. Does anyone know how many people turn out in a special election, not in a June or November Because that's, like, if those 5 people are wonderful, we're gonna have the best school on the planet, and if they're not, we're gonna have the worst. And that's just all there is to it, and I don't know any way to think about that differently.
You can lead a horse to water.
I know, but I mean, how many people come out to vote? I guess that's the concrete question.
All that can be done at that, is the slate gets there, you publicize who that is, you have venues so that they can, you have candidates nights and things like that, so people can hear what they're thinking, what they want to, what their goals and desires are. But you can't drag people to the polls. If they want to go and vote, they're going to go and vote. Historically, in the town, non-gubernatorial, non-presidential is usually about 50% of what you get at a gubernatorial or a presidential, and that's just where it is. But I will say that Raymond, as a percentage, typically has higher voting percentages than a lot of others, because if part of where we're looking here, the thought process behind here is let's try and bring the community back into the whole thing. If we look at where things that the town has done, the town has always supported the schools. Back when Jordan Small was built, the state, the plans went in and they said, we want to build this gymnasium. The state said, no, it's too big. Raymond said, no, we want to build that. Raymond paid for that gym itself. It did not come out of this. The state did not approve it. Raymond approved it for the use for the school and the community. So the intent is to try and bring the community back into things. I can remember the days when we used to have senior meals at the school. We had more things like that were going on. If we can bring the community back in there, that is only going to help the school too. And so when we do that, the more we can get people involved in those things, yes, they'll come and vote. If they feel that something's happening that they're not getting a buy-in on, then they're less likely. So it's a matter of really trying to make sure that people know what the advantages are there, and the history that says that the town has always supported the schools.
The special election in August was to see if we were going to withdraw or not, had 7% voter turnout.
7%?
So
I didn't know that.
So you're
and
not
I'm in politics.
It was
so
approximately
this is
like
terrifying.
375 people or so, yeah.
You were talking about maybe getting horrible people on the board. That's when, again, you get people that you know. These are people in your community, and they may see things differently than you do. I don't think horrible would be a good word to say, but you get people out there that you think would be good on it, and then we start rallying people to do it. But I know that we used to shut down baseball, we used to shut down all sports on Saturdays, and it'd be an all-day thing where a lot of people came to the meetings, in both the town budget and the school budget and so on, so everybody really just, could come in, have that say, discuss, open communication, that type of thing.
Caitlin Case, Tenny Hill, thank you all again for this information. For any more every meeting, thank you. I just want to be sure, I think I heard you say, sir, that you anticipated transition costs to be how many hundreds of thousands? Around 600,000. Okay, thank you. I hadn't even registered, that wasn't part of this first year budget.
It's on the website, Kate, we posted up those things.
Understood. And then, second, I also think it was just mentioned that COVID has not been taken into consideration in this first year budget, and everything that the federal government is currently saying is that we will likely be dealing with COVID going into next year. I know personally, my son is being taught by remote school, being taught by a teacher from Ribbon Primary, and there's a mix of kids in the school, and I just don't. Does this budget have enough staff to even allow for starting a school year next year with COVID?
No.
Okay.
There's no way we can ever anticipate that. And as far as women primary teaching, being a student, my wife is a pre-K teacher, and she is a student at Latvia. So the remoteness has really nothing to do with it. It's about staff.
That's my point. My point is that it is about staff, and is that there has to be there's to be a different student-teacher ratio in the schools, in remote, and we have to make sure that they're all being taught by people who have teaching degrees. And I know that is why my son's being taught by a teacher from Newton Primary, because there were fewer teachers from Raymond Elementary School who qualified to teach remotely, and they're still all being used. So I guess.
You cut me off, and it's my turn now.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
But keep in mind, there has been no adjustment.
You cut me off.
He just cut, he's not that.
There has been no adjustment to the RSU 14 budget for COVID at this point. You know, and so the fact that we're dealing with what is known there. COVID is it's unknown what things are going to look like next year. But we're projecting out 2 years, so all you can do, what you can do is you take that, recognizing that if something changes, it's going to have to be addressed. I mean, it's going to have to be addressed at the RSU level. It would have to be addressed at the local level. I mean, you're committed to supplying the education, so you're going to have to do it. And if it means that what you have to do, the question is that infrastructure. If you create infrastructure to be able to do that now, it's not going away, it's still there. So now you're just going to be operating that infrastructure, you're going to do things different. If the cost is different, then that'll have to be reflected in that budget. But how do you budget an unknown number? You can't.
Of course, and I understand that. It just seems to me that likely there probably need to be more staff than just based on what's happening now, and that we can probably make an estimate based on what the needs are now, what they could be, if all things stay the same, which it looks like, wouldn't it be great if they didn't, but, sorry, Marcia, I did not mean to cut you off.
I'm sorry, I think he answered it, but I just want to add that we rely on high-quality teachers in Raymond, and I would assume that they would have the flexibility to do both remote and in-person teaching. I'm not sure how the school is split here. Is it 2 on, 2 off, or is it 5 on? What is it? How are you dealing in your classrooms now, Kenny? Do you have 2 days on, 2 days out?
The kids, are you talking about the kids go?
Yes.
Half
But
the
your
kids-
staff is still
Half
there.
the kids come on Mondays and Wednesdays, the other come on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And what are so you have teachers 4 days a week?
And people can choose 100% distance learning as
I
well.
understand that, but who's doing the remote work if your teachers are?
Separate teachers.
They're separate teachers.
That have been
There's
added to
teachers
staff?
specifically just for in-school.
Just for
in-school.
teachers
Specifically for
That have been
So
added to staff?
the way we put it is, I'm sorry, the way we put it is that we have, instead of 6 schools, we have 7. And one is the distance learning school.
And it's working incredibly well from a parent perspective. I mean, I cannot, because there's a teacher dedicated to that, I mean, it'd be impossible for a teacher to be doing hybrid teaching students in person and online at the same time.
But you could accommodate that request, because a lot of schools are not doing that.
Right.
School board could accommodate that request because of the level of teachers we have in the district. As a whole,
Right.
versus being separate.
But that would have to be a school board choice starting in January, because we can't anticipate COVID now a year out. If you believe the Republican and the Democratic Party, there's a vaccine right there.
Well, I believe the scientists who say that even if there is a vaccine, even if it's going to take over a year to get everybody vaccinated, so, but that's a different issue.
It's not really COVID.
Okay.
Just a quick one to touch base on you. Rob, is that much mental? You said you can't calculate that number. For the students,
I did not hear you.
you said you can't calculate that number for her. We're contractually obligated, I'm sure Lloyd can touch it on this, with special education, we're required by law to provide services to certain special needs children.
What number are you talking about?
The point that she just made, you talked
About COVID?
right? We're required by law with special needs kids to provide services. You said you wasn't able to put a number on that. So what's gonna happen if the town our town hall can function, okay, for months. So when you say we got a school district down here, but X amount of kids in both schools that you can't put a number on that, there needs to be a number assigned to that, because we're contractually obligated under state mandates to provide services to these children. I'm sure Boyd can,
I have no problem with that, but that would not be my responsibility. That would be the responsibility of the new board that's put in
well, don't you
place.
think the constituents like me, because I was full Ricky Bob growing up, I was probably what, but now I'm hearing everything, I have some great concerns. None of this has been discussed publicly. The fact that, you know, what's going to happen if COVID hits the school, we don't have enough teachers now. Okay, so what happens if we lose 10% of our population? I mean, the town is close to 2 months. What's the school district going to do? Then why are we breaking off right now? Why haven't we taken that? We can't answer these basic questions. Why is this conversation?
Can I just state something really, really quick? We heard it the other night, and I just heard it now, the tones. You guys, honestly, we are doing the best we can, and I understand. Okay, and it's not, and I wish we all would just respect that each side. We're just, oh, it's so frustrating. Behind the masks, and all of it, and I feel like we as a board or committee, whatever the word is at the moment, is being attacked also. And we're trying to give you every information that we can get you. And I know there's concerns, I know people are worried, it's change, it's all of that. But please understand, the tone goes both ways. It really does. And all I'm asking is that everybody has fears, everybody has concerns. We just respect each other on the questions and the concerns, and we are trying to give you the information that we can give you that's as accurate as can be. And then we pass it to the school board. But I'm sorry if I took your loudness for.
Well, you got that can't hear either. You said 3 or 4 times. I don't know where you're going with this.
Sorry, it's not. Everything's like echoing in here, so you're trying to find.
If I may, the kind of the spirit behind the question is, have you accounted for special ed? The answer is we have accounted for special ed the same way that the RSU does at this point, which is to take the budgeting and whatnot. If something happens above and beyond that, it does have to, it's no different if costs increase, the RSU has to account for those. If costs increase because of that, then the local unit would have to. We've had to do that in the past when we were standalone. So yes, there's state obligations and federal obligations on special ed, and those have to be met. That is not in question. What's in question is, can you hang a number on that? You can't hang a number on an unknown. So all you can do is say, okay, this is what we have budgeted in there based on where the costs are we have seen at this point. If something changes on that, then it would have to be addressed. And how you then fund that becomes discussions for the school board and things like that. And then it opens up the whole gambit of how do you do it? And how you do it is, can have many different answers. And so, no one is disputing the fact that if there is a need, a special ed need that statutorily, or even legitimately has to be covered, then it has to be covered. But
you said that very well. My point, you guys are selected and resolve your constituents, okay? And in my interpretation of selecting, you guys are elected in place to kind of set the tone and hear everybody that's underneath you. And the questions I'm hearing right now are, how much are my taxes going to go up? Because people can't afford to pay their heat bills now. The second thing, what's going to happen with COVID? And I hear all this stuff about budgets, but the core issues here are our children. And I haven't really heard anything that is making me feel warm and fuzzy, other than you guys got the numbers down, that this is going to work. And I've just got some real big reservations with that right now, with, we don't know about COVID, we don't know about the teachers, we don't know about this, we don't know about that. And as the board of selectmen, you would think you would see all these issues, and if I was on the board, I'd be like,
retired selectman, so I'm just a citizen right now, just like you. You know, I have a lot of history in this town, as you're probably aware. Raymond has been a standalone for a long, long time before we decided to join the RSU back in 2008 and 9. I actually was the chair of the committee that negotiated the whole RSU process, just so you know. I've seen it develop. We are paying right now $18,000 per child from Raymond to go to the RSU. The state average is a little over $16,000. The RSU average in RSU 14 is around $12,600. And you can look it up on the state website. You can go do all that research. It's out there. That means Raymond is subsidizing the RSU to a lot of money. Because we are a land-rich community. Our valuation is over $1 billion. We just write checks. That's all we do. Now, I agree with you. What impact will this have on the education of the kids from Raymond? That's the main question that we ought to be looking at. All this budget stuff doesn't mean a thing, because we're going to raise as much money as needed to educate our children, whether they're special ed or just regular kids coming through the school system. So forget the budget. The budget is what it's going to be. Raymond has never skimped on the educational budget, ever. Are there benefits to becoming our own independent school unit again? And I think there are. I mean, it's not like we weren't there before. It's not like we don't have experience doing it. We have. We have in the past. And we had successful schools. If you look at the test scores in the Raymond schools versus the test scores in the Wyndham schools, our Raymond kids do a lot better. Whether it's math, reading, anything. The Raymond kids do much better. So we already have a good base to start from. That's because we have good teachers in Raymond. I don't expect a mass exodus of teachers. Why would they? Raymond's a great place to work. We'll have to renegotiate a contract. It's been done before. I was the chair of the school board. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but we renegotiated contracts all the time. The question is the town of Raymond willing to accept a challenge of starting over again? But you're not starting from scratch. The base is already here. You know, we now have the town employees plow the parking lot in the schools. Because 5 years ago, there was a private contractor who couldn't plow those parking lots on time. But now the town does it, like we used to do in the past. There's so much experience in this town of how things are done that I am not afraid of doing this. And I'm not worried about the budget one bit. You can ask all these questions about budget. It's going to be whatever it takes to educate these kids to the best level we can. That's what we ought to be looking at.
May I just ask you a question on that, and maybe even of the other committee members? I'm clearly for spending money on kids and educating them, and I am happy to spend more money to have a better education for our students. But my question is, then, if we're okay with spending more money, why are we showing folks a budget that appears, it has the appearance, and I know it's going to change. There's a few things, actually, I have a question for Marshall on. But why are we showing a budget that appears to save 1.6 million?
This is the best guess that Marshall and whoever worked on the budget came up with. It's a guess. It's only a guess. As I said, we're spending $18,000 per kid right now. So you just multiply that out by how many 600 and something kids. It's a $10.5 million budget.
And I completely understand that this is a best guess, completely. I'm concerned, I keep sucking this thing into I know I'm talking, it's like choking me. But my concern is that we are going to present this as a withdrawal committee to taxpayers and saying that this is what their estimated savings is. And then we're going to elect a school board. That school board may or may not say, we need to increase this. We need to increase this budget. Now I'm concerned that as a withdrawal committee, we're going to say, well, it's not our fault. We showed you what this budget is. It's the elected school board's fault. I'm very concerned about like a smoke and mirrors type thing or bait and switch type thing. So I guess that's great if we want to spend a lot of money on the kids, absolutely. But then why are we showing this savings? And I guess my request as a committee member would be, let's stop showing how much we're saving. You know?
I'm fine if you don't show a budget at all, to be honest with you.
But again,
My whole thing is this budget means nothing. And you shouldn't be voting on this to save money. That should not be your primary goal. The primary goal should be, is Raymond going to have local control again and self-determination of their kids that live in Raymond and what kind of education they get? That should be your primary goal.
But we do know a lot of people will vote based on a cost. Well, I mean, but we have no control.
Well, we don't know that. We're just assuming that may happen. But yeah, when people say to me, why should we, separate? And I said, because Raymond needs to control its own destiny on their kids. Just the way it used to be, when I first moved to town here a long time ago.
Thank you for that.
I would suggest maybe that it doesn't say the financial impact of withdrawal then, it says something like estimated budget.
Well, that's what it says, estimated savings.
Well, in two different places, on the left in a big circle, I do PowerPoints all the time, right? And this looks to me like what I would present to my board of directors if I wanted to engage in a cost-saving measure, right? Here's gonna be the financial impact. And bottom line, you're gonna save $1.6 million. And that's how this slide appears. So I'm making a suggestion that maybe it should say estimated. And additionally, I work for a public company, so you have to call out everything that's missing. So I would have some asterisks in here that says, the impact of COVID can't be estimated.
But you have your finite numbers. You know exactly the numbers you're working with. This is all a guess. If you just take $18,000 per student, multiply by how many students we have, and go, okay, that's the number we're working with. We're not going to go below what we're currently paying, more than likely.
Okay, and I don't disagree, but I wouldn't present publicly as the financial impact of withdrawal. I would be upfront that it's an estimated budget based on the best we can.
Well, that's what we've been saying, at least we've been saying that in these meetings and hoping people hear that.
But this is online,
but
so
if you
people
look at it-
aren't listening to your meeting.
I can't believe they're not listening.
No, it's not.
So your recommendation would be people that are not estimated.
If you look at that slide, if you look at that slide, it says estimated, it says estimated, it says estimated. And so, yes, you can make people read, you can't make people read, you can't make people do a lot. But the fact is, we have tried to explain at each of these meetings, where this came from, why, how those numbers came about. But when we've had input from people in these meetings that said, gee, we should have it, we have plowed those back in too. So there has not been a reluctance to listening to what people have asked for and reacting to that and adjusting for that. That same process, I would hope, would occur when you have your school board. That people would be able to go to the school board and say, this is what we want to do. They obviously at that point they've got to balance it against everything. But the hope would be that if you're at a local level, that there's more reaction to what your local needs are than when you're at the global level. And right now we're at the global level because we are the RSU. If you come back to the local level, we're more reactive to the local needs.
I have three comments I'd like to make, Sean, if I may. Number one, I've been involved in town politics for at least 15 years, and I have never once seen the town meeting say no to a reasonable request. Number two, this is a proposed budget. It has never been my intent to walk away from this if the vote goes. I'll be more than happy to spend my time with the next board, explain my logic, give them the numbers, and then assist them in whatever way I can. I think there's an illusion that I am going to walk away. I'm not. I'm into this penny and I'm in for a pound. And I knew that that was part of the deal. I have no problem going to the next board and justifying my numbers. If they choose otherwise, fine. I'm a big boy. I don't think so. Sean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to just say that I lived in this town for probably 25 plus years. Prior to this RSU being formed, I do not ever once remembering the people of Raymond not supporting the children or the teachers of this town with the budget that they need. And I'd be curious, some people here are deliberating. Oh, that's great, I expected the opposite, so that's wonderful.
Yes,
And to go to your question, you're wondering, you're thinking that people don't want to vote about money. No, I think it's more about, we want our town back, we want Raymond, we don't want people from Wyndham deciding our fate. That's why.
just from a historical perspective, there's been one school budget voted down in the last 42 years. 1990, they asked for an 11% increase. I was on the school committee. I voted against it, saying the townspeople will never support 11%. That was the only time that a school budget was ever voted down.
And the follow-on to that is when it came back in, it was approved at about a 9%. If memory serves me, Chris. So it's not that it said, throw the budget out, you're getting nothing. No, it said, okay, go back and look at this. They came back and they got 9% instead of 11%.
My name is Melissa Messer. I am going to speak loudly so that everybody can hear me. It is not a word of my attitude or my conversation. I'll make that clear to start. I'd like to start first by saying thank you. It's obvious there's been a lot of time, meticulous work to go through this to the full committee in those who are not here. I do really appreciate that because it's impressive. 2 years, this is 2 years of paperwork that you've invested in creating this for us to review and look at. I tried to make it up in 15 days. I'm sitting here asking some questions today because I have some questions as a taxpayer and as a parent. It's funny you bring up 1990 because I drove here today in a car that's my mother's, that's a 1990, and they call it an SUV because there's been newer and better things that have come along as far as systems. And though we respect it, and I love it, I work on that car. I would rather work on that vehicle than my vehicle any day of the week. But there are newer things that have come along. I think we need to keep our eyes and minds open to that. So just a really couple quick points of clarification for myself so that I have understanding. I searched raymondmean.org and clicked on the artist withdrawal button, which I really love that you made that highlight earlier in the year. I'm looking for the frequently asked questions that have been referred to in these meetings, and I'm not finding it. Can someone guide me to where I can find those?
I just sent them to all of these guys to make sure, because there's so many different questions, and I can't answer them all, so I sent them to the different people that can answer these.
Okay.
And it's a couple pages, and I think I just got the version back from Rolf, is what it is. And I just keep adding to them. So every time someone comes in,
I feel like it sounds like people are going to check out information. I think it'd be awesome that it's not a redundancy, and I just want to make sure I wasn't missing where they were from. Is that going to go on the RSU tab?
It is,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And then secondly, there's referencing to a Facebook page to find information.
That Facebook page, I don't know know how to do it, so it's going down. Because I started it, and I don't know how to actually really do it. I mean, I put some stuff up, but everything that's on there links you to the town page. So, all information, else I put up there is when the meetings were, the budget, the survey, and that is it. So that's already all linked over to the town, so I'm just going to shut that thing down.
So the town website would be the ideal place for people to go to
Yes.
get the most up-to-date and accurate information.
Yes, and it's, there's, if you go under the withdrawal tabs, yes.
Okay, and then, could you verify for us, just for clarity, on the 22-step process from the state, what step number are we on today?
18, 10, Dan?
You know,
I'll have to take a look.
Okay, so,
I mean,
Thought it was like
well,
14.
we can boil it back this way.
God has 10.
The final approval came from the DOE for it to go forward. They have directed that
and can you speak a little bit louder, the final approval?
the final approval came down from the DOE. So, and we have been directed that the vote will be on November 3rd.
Right.
So that really that will bring us essentially to the end. And then the steps after that are forming the school board and entering in the agreements and things like that.
Okay, it doesn't need to be a long, I just wonder, because I'm trying to follow the process and what, I figured the voting is the next thing after this, but I just want to make sure I was aware and accurately kind of assessing where we are in that 22-step process. So, can somebody confirm to me that on that RaymondMe.org website, there is a withdrawal link again that shows a list of committee members that have been involved in this process. Is that accurate as to people who've been? And so, for example, it says that Rolf is the representative, Teresa, Dr. Eastman, Stockford Benedict subcommittees, Susan Brackett, Jamie Cummings, Sarah Davis, Heather Freeman. Are those all accurate people that have been involved?
At one point or another in there.
Okay. So this list is 16 people, of which 2 are paid advisors, 2 are RSU board members, 2 are selectmen board members, 5 are town of Raymond officials, and 5 are citizens.
Let me take that for a second. In the budget process, I'm not stupid enough to stand up and do this all alone. I have sought assistance from the superintendent of schools that is not in this district. He has advised me. I have a very close connection with the special ed director in the 3rd school system that has taken a look at this. So those people and others, I have used as advisors, but they are not officially committee members because they are not residents of Raymond.
Oh, but that's fine. I'm so glad that we have somebody that's advising. It's nice to have lots of input. I'm all for people with different opinions and input, so I get totally. What I'm trying to look at is how many of our citizens are actually aware and involved. It gives me a picture of, if we move forward, what kind of percentages are we talking about? We can look back at history and say what happened, but we also need to look right now at what's happening. That's all.
Can I answer one more? I work with the town on the One Raymond concept with what they do with the plowing and stuff like that, and I think you pulled in a lot of Raymond teachers for that
Well, that's
program.
my next thing, because
Okay.
I did look at that, and I went through every single meeting on that. I documented every person, and I'll have a total of 1,100 individuals, you're right, that did give advice. And so in total, according to what I've been able to see in paperwork, I mean, I kind of honestly have resorted to what's been in the meetings, because I feel a bit frustrated about trying to ask questions and not getting specific answers, and that's just how my mind works. I like to know what we're looking at. But further meeting notes from the withdrawal committee shows 29 citizens in total have had some level of engagement, and not counting the advisors that have helped you. That's a great note to have. But
I'm sure that doesn't apply only to me.
no, I'm sure not. I'm sure the people on the chairs have sought advice, which is probably why you are the chair, because you have a lot of big contacts, absolutely. Raymond has 4,523 citizens, so if 29 citizens were involved, that represents 0.001%
we put it in the newspaper, people to join committees, we put it on the Facebook page. We are thankful
I'm
for
just making
people.
a comment right now, I'm just making a comment, and I'm just making an observation, that's all.
I would happy with any committee that you saw.
Okay, so, in the withdrawal committee meeting dated November 24, 2018, agenda item number 17, entitled Subcommittee Setup, page 9, Dr. Eastman advised the committee that in his opinion, he needed to build a broad base to make committee, to get more people involved and more people talking about it. Later in that paragraph, he noted that about 70 people would be ideal in a committee, in a conversation, lots of different opinions. In November 14, 2008, withdrawal committee, page 1, Dr. Eastman, during his introduction as an advisory consultant, stated, the process is an opportunity to discover if the withdrawal process is what the citizens want for the children. And then I really appreciated you guys put a survey out. I think it was connected to the PTO, but that's where I found it, back in July of 2020, yes. And 98 people responded to that survey. We tried to bring it up the other night as far as what the citizens of those 98 citizens said. So I took that list and I took down and responded to the question, which was your first question. If you support or oppose the withdrawal, why? The top result, both supporting and opposing, was a statement involving cost, the word money, or the word finances. 41 people said that out of the 98. The next top result was 24 statements involving the ability of resources, access, and academics or sports activities. Number 3 response was the word local control. There were 8 statements that said local control out of those 98, and 18 people left the line blank. So the biggest concern to that surveyed group of people, and I think what you're hearing today as well, is cost. And it has been the conversation that has been driving these meetings all along, because as taxpayers, if we build the taxes up and say, oh, well, we didn't account for the transition, and we're not going to account for COVID because who knows what happens. Well, we know what's happening right now. We are going to drive out the very families we need for this community if we are writing our taxes up too high. I really appreciated Mr. Wilson's response in the document dated January 20th, 2019 in the public workshop when he stated, we are looking for your questions, concerns, and thoughts so we can build a coherent plan, I love that will address those issues as well as the budget and a number of other things. To which RES teacher Susan Bradford stated, since we have been with Wyndham, this is an RES teacher, we have been able to increase budgets, add extra coaches, we have better curriculum. If we withdraw, we will lose that funding and the students would suffer. And that's a quote. In that same meeting, Mr. Lund gave a response in part that says, I was a teacher for 30 years and went through the withdrawal process. Don't leave the teachers out of the loop. Meet with them separately from a public hearing to answer their questions. I love that input. I'm very concerned about the opinions of our teachers and our staff regarding this movement. So my question here is, I'm wondering, did the meeting with Raymond staff and teachers both at RES and JSMS ever take place within the last 2 years?
That would have occurred under the subcommittee of programs.
Did a meeting take place then?
No, I was unaware that that was under my subcommittee until right now.
So further in that document, so that's dated January 10th, 2019, on page 4, Teresa replied, getting input from her teachers is going to be huge. So since we didn't have that meeting, let's hear from the teacher's teacher, which is Principal Beth Peavy of Raymond Elementary School. She stood before you on that very night and on January 10th, 2019, page 5, in the withdrawal committee document stated, my experience that this is about kids, but the reason that we are at this point is cost. People cannot afford for our budget to increase. Special ed students can move into our town at any time and have a huge impact on our budget. I also heard that when special ed goes up, we'll take away from our regular education. We used to have 3 to 4 teachers per grade level, and JSMS was full. But what do you take away when we only have 2 to 3 at a grade level? We have some Wyndham kids in our building right now. Will they want to come to our school if they separate? Our Title I percentage is the lowest in the district at 29.9%, which is below the level of federal funding. Will we lose those funds? And then Ms. Carter stood up right after that and said on page 6, our pupil care costs and the special education costs were the highest in the state when we were on our own. With Wyndham, there's a life skill program, a day treatment program, and we could not do that very regularly with 1 or 2 kids. There is a cost effectiveness in numbers, which is what our current representatives on the RSU Board and Draw Committee stated about special education numbers going up in our previous meetings. It is really, to me, unacceptable that this process has gone 2 years without a meeting with our teachers and staff. These people are, every word that you've used to describe them, extraordinary, incredible. We are entrusting our children's lives to them every day. I could not be happier. I moved to this town for teachers quite frankly like Jenny Cummings, that have had like Susan Brackett, Beth Levy. We are incredible people, and to come to this point and not have had one meeting with those people, this is not a comfortable forum with them. It was advised to you in January to have, I just think it's ridiculous, in my opinion. Question, was there a 5 to 10 year plan that you could guide me to, not just a 1 year possible budget, but a 5 to 10 year plan that we could look at what happens in the long run? Because a lot, we don't have time, I could if you want me to. A lot in this withdrawal agreement says the first year is covered. Raymond is going to have to cover it after that. And I'd like to see or know if there is a 5 to 10 year plan, or is the planning process, just for my clarification, was it only to go out 1 year?
If you're asking me that question, the answer is correct, because after 1 year, we would have no authority over the school board.
Gotcha.
That would be their issue.
Gotcha.
They would have a 5 year plan. I'm sure that our issue 14 has a 5 year, at least a 5 year plan.
Okay, so nobody else on the committee had like a business strategy or, okay, yes, it's gonna go up. We're gonna have earlier, Ms. Davis talked about facility costs. Yeah, our facilities as the aid here, we're gonna implement that. There was none of that done.
That's correct, because even if we did, the first action that the board could do is say, we don't like that, we're gonna do something entirely different. So the board has to develop that because the board has to enforce it. If we develop it, they have no buy-in to it. If they develop it, they've got the buy-in to it, and that they will then move it forward. So that is the responsibility of the school board when it comes in, is to look at 5 and 10 year planning.
So I guess when I made the mention earlier, my frustration with questioning, it just feels like it pushes to the next group. Like we spoke up here, like, well, it will be the school board's part, because in a meeting with the withdrawal committee dated January 10, 2019, we were directly asked by Ms. Meg Madsen, quote, when this goes to vote, will the citizens get more information about the long-term plan? The answer from Chair Olson's response is we have a number of meetings to go over all of that. We're currently developing those things, and that is why we brought on Mark Eastman as a consultant to help with this 22-step process. On page 7 of that document, Beth Levy stated, we want what is best for our students. Think first year, what are things going to look like? But dig deeper to find the long-term effect, not just year 1. We don't want to be in the position of cutting student services to save tax dollars. She asked in a future meeting that you would make those public figures discuss and plan. It's been 1 year, 8 months, and 6 days since that request was made. And again, I feel a little dumbfounded that it was something that was asked from the teachers, and we still have no answer. I just want to move on because I know there's going to be others. I waited as long as I possibly could, but I couldn't anymore. High school, document November 14th, 2018, agenda item number 6, from page 7, reads as follows. Mr. Bruno said, I think it's important that we have school choice so people continue to send their kids to Wyndham. Even if we withdraw from the RSU. That is important. It is, I agree. If you have kids in the school system right now, and you want your kids to go to Wyndham, there is no reason, even with withdrawal, that you can't send your kids to Wyndham. I just want to put a little personal caveat. There's only a guarantee for 10 years. Ms. Dr. Bennett said that those are some of the emails that I got that are worried about this process playing out. Would their students be booted? I cannot see any educator or staff or whatever cutting that, and I think that we would have to put that in the negotiation, to which Mr. Wilson said we would have a contract. Again, that contract is only for 10 years. That directly affects me because my little guy will be in that 10 year, out of that 10-year window.
But if I might
No,
answer.
just 1 minute, and then I'll let you comment, if I may. Mrs. Sadik said, we got that email several times before, but I cannot see any school beating a kid out. I really can't. If that's the case, then they're not in it for the kid's education. I can say that your child has the right to go there for choice. I cannot see Wyndham ever putting us out of there. You know, the only issue that might arise, and I don't know where the 82% is, but it happened with Poland. That Poland could not give us a contract because they could not take our kids because they were already full. It was a new school, and they could only take siblings at that time as far as high schoolers. Mr. Bruno said, and when you look at school population declining the way it is, there are opportunities out there. I'm not too concerned. I am concerned because we have fractured relationship with amazing people under the directorship of both Superintendent Chris Howe and Superintendent Stacey Prince. Mr. Howe has done nothing but demonstrate his desire to seek to get to know our kids and to get to know us by being in the school. My kids said the same thing, you know, about, I know Mr. Howe, walking around seeing him in class, you know, who was at school today? When you look at the numbers of Wyndham and what's happening in Wyndham, perhaps you're not aware, I would think that this would have been something about due diligence. The population and demographics of the town of Wyndham is the second fastest growing municipality in the state of Maine. This is from wyndhammaine.us/documents that are March 23rd, 2015. And I say all these documents because I want to be a source of facts. Go find the facts and find the information that you need to find to make your decision. At the 2010 census, Wyndham's population was 17,001 people. It increased 14.1%. The same time, the growth rate of Raymond was 3.2%. Did anybody look at those statistics of demographic and population increase for the town of Wyndham and Raymond in this process?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you find as far as the school-age children numbers with Wyndham increasing?
Wyndham's school-age population is growing much faster than Raymond. And, you know, you say, well, this contract's only for 10 years. So
No. I want to stay on the population. I want to stay on site because I don't want to muddy the waters. We're already muddying up. Let me just read to you from this so that you know. The census gave age distribution changes of population between the two towns. And in a closer examination of the graph on two key findings, there is a population shift happening in the residents and growth of Wyndham's population. Also noting a relatively strong growth in the school-age children. In particular, there are more children in ages 10 to 14 than expected on a growth base of this number between the kids under the age of 5, meaning more families, more kids. If Wyndham grows their facilities and has so many kids, what's going to happen to us at Poland is going to happen to us at Wyndham. So there are no guarantees. After 10 years, we have no guarantees. We have no guarantees for our kids. If the growing logic, looking at these politics statistics that are from the town website, are going to be provide for the students and seeing other students in Raymond kids could lose. And they're going to fracture the relationships that we've had with our kids on sports teams and everything else. These ongoing withdrawal conversations are hurting our community, and Beth Peavy, the principal at RES, told you on January 10th, 2019 committee withdrawal meeting that this has an impact on morale on the community's teachers, students, before, during, and after. This is a principal who not only hears and sees her staff and parents, but she herself has lived here in Raymond and put her kids to these very schools. If you are not leaning into the expert advice of our local teachers and our local principals, who are you listening to?
Can I answer? Are you done yet? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure you were done before I interrupt.
I'm not done. I'll just do one thing and then I'll be done. I would love to hear. I just want to close my research and my comments with this. Reviewing every single meeting, the withdrawal agreement, cross would be need to assume to continue the educational opportunities that our kids have, to support the staff and the teachers that are here, and supplying a quality programming that the RSU provides today under the terrific leadership of Christopher Allen. I lean into those who are intimately involved to hear their perspective and to get their expertise of our school system. And when I hear your proposal and petition of not talking to the teachers, not listening what to the community says, even though it's 98 people on the survey, I hear a need of control. Self-egos and control should have very little value in this conversation. And unfortunately, to me, it appears to be taking center stage. This is about our kids, this is about our teachers and staff, and this is about our community. None of those areas will benefit from a withdrawal. I urge the community who's listening and those here to take time to reference the remarks that you're saying, do your research, know your facts before you go out in November. And I will use your very words from this committee from May 2015 to close. If we withdraw from the RSU, taxpayers would pay an estimated increase of 25% or more in rated taxes. Our current trend of declining enrollment will likely result in cuts to staff and services. Raymond would be responsible for the entire cost of repairs to RS and JSMS. Representation via new school board will be from K through 8, but none for the high school. And there will be limited opportunities for co-curricular programming. There's a plethora of others, but I hope that others will join me in voting no for withdrawal.
All right, Ralph, can I jump in? Okay, first off, I have the utmost respect for Chris Howe, the utmost. He's seen my kids through high school. He has been great to talk to, everything. Second, I don't see egos up here. I really don't. I just see a different opinion is what I see. The next thing is, as far as your comment was, newer things to come along, is what you said, with the car situation. We didn't know this was coming come December, this COVID, and it's changed everything. Everything. I mean, we have just, our world is on a tilt right now. The other thing is, who's to say Wyndham, because they are, and I watched some of their town meetings, it's crazy what they're dealing with down there. It's on overload with the building and stuff like that. Who's to say that they're not going to say after a while that, okay, we just can't do Raymond anymore? The good thing about this is, if we withdraw, we have a superintendent that can check out the opportunities for the kids and what is available and to be able to work out those agreements between schools. 10 years from now, I think right now we're in our 10th year from being together with withdrawal. 11th year. So we're just right there with that 10 years. So a lot changes. A lot can change. We can't predict things. But that's when you turn around and you put it back into the superintendent of the school that we would have here and to make those agreements, to make those connections. We don't know what 2 years is going to bring from us. Trying to get people to answer surveys, on anything is crazy. Trying to get people to come to the meetings is crazy. We put out in the newspaper, come join it. We call people that we would think that would know, and it is the same people. And we are trying, I guess, we are not out to make things bad to these kids. I wouldn't be in the profession for 25 years that I'm in with daycare. So I am all about the kids, or I would not do that. So I don't like the comments that do come out that we are not for the kids, because we are. And I've been on the select board for, I don't know, 7, 8 years, and it is a tough position, but it's just a different opinion, is what it is. And I know we talked about the other night too, I know Kate was trying to make a positive statement about not looking to the past, and it was a comment that you had made about not being accurate. I found the documents, and I don't want to go back to this. With the choice. There was 3 choices on the table. Two of them were withdrawal. 2 of them were closing Durham Small, one was not. And that is scary to me. Because picture a town without a middle school and just an elementary school. So, wait. I gave you your space. No, it's fine, sorry. But when you have people wanting to move to town and there's only an elementary school, because there is that possibility, but I do think Chris is doing great things for this community. I really do, and I do think he's done things great for the school. But I also know that Raymond was really good beforehand too. And so we have asked. I've also heard from staff that they don't want to speak up for fear that exactly this, where people will be attacked if they have a different opinion. So that is what I'm hearing. So it's really, I really try to be careful what I say, because I don't want to feel like I'm being negative. I don't have a big ego by no means, and I will do anything to volunteer, support, help. And it's one of the reasons why I got on the board. So that's just my comeback.
The point of bringing up the schools, the middle school, is JSMS is not on the talking block at Ivy.
You can't guarantee that, Alyssa. You cannot.
I can't guarantee, but I can show you what's happening today. What I know today.
Exactly.
What I know from the principal today. What I know from our school representative today. What I know from the
I know that.
today.
What about 2 years from now?
They have hired a person to take a look at JSMS.
Yep.
They've invested in the roof. They've invested in the
Yes.
building. They've taken out. That does not say me I'm shutting down a school and moving your kids out.
Okay, but listen, February 2014, Katrina Sangster came on video, and I went back and watched it, and she had listed out all the prices, or what it cost. And the comment that came out as I looked at Mike Reynolds, I said, yeah, so why would they put costs on it if they're gonna close the school down? And Katrina said, exactly. That is scary. But you can't guarantee 5 years. You don't know who's not gonna be on the board. And what I didn't add just a second ago, I think this could have been avoided, all of this, if the school board would have had a meeting with us, or just open dialogue with us. And I think the school board failed in that, because we are constituents, we are taxpayers, and we had questions, we had concerns. So my back was against the wall. I didn't ask anybody else to do it. I went and took the petition out. But it has to go back on the school board for people that represent Raymond that had questions and concerns and would not talk to the people of Raymond of how we could possibly solve this and fix this.
My point of the document for the committee report in 2014 is bringing that up, because you listed one thing from that report. If we're going to list information, we need to list all the information.
What information are you talking?
I'm talking about what the options were. It is my understanding that that committee was given, it was equal Raymond, equal Wyndham people. Equal amount of people, equal amount of representation, and they were charged by the school board, I believe, to go figure out what you think, what you feel, what you see, and what any option can be. They came back with this document to the school board and said, this is what we feel. In my investigation of where the school board is today, not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago, not what happens in the future, today, they are committed to keeping JSMS open with the principal we have and the teachers we have. The point to earlier taxes, the cost, whether we're talking about closing a school or not, if you're going to list a piece of data, you need to list all of it so the taxpayers in the community know it's not just when they're going to close down a school. That was not the only option, and there are multiple options that they gave to the school board to review. I just want to present out, that's why I stated everything that I stated, that report I gave a page number in a document so people can go back and watch it, look it up quote by quote, and see what was said. Because we're not getting answers at these meetings. It's like, no, I didn't talk to the teachers. Might be personal conversations, but this, if it's a part of this process to withdraw all of our kids out of the fire too, who's the most important thing? To me, it's the kids and our staff. And we're not talking to them. I did a playground, which is minimal to this. I talked to all the students, I talked to the staff, I talked to the teachers, I talked to the administration. I came before you guys as a select board. I didn't have to do that. I wanted everybody's input. What would this affect you? What do you think of this? What would you use this for? What would you do different?
We have reached out. We really have. We have tried. Oh my goodness, we have tried 2 years of this, and that's another thing that is.
I'm very confused. I just want to understand. You reached out to the teachers?
Huh? I have talked to teachers, and I cannot put their names out there because.
I'm not asking for names. I'm asking, was there an opportunity for teachers and staff from RES and JSMS to meet with you as a collaborative committee or a subcommittee to express themselves, their concerns, their opposition, or their support, so that we have a better idea for teachers what we could do to support them?
I looked at it as the ones that came to the meetings felt comfortable enough to speak out about it. The ones that did not come did not feel comfortable. That is my opinion.
Well, that's unfortunate to me because as a person that has voted for selection, I would find that to be your charge to get that information. It's just a difference in
I'm not going to force somebody to come to the table. There's no way. I would never do that to somebody.
You only have to set up the meeting.
Let me ask one simple question. Why did you not come and volunteer to work on the committee?
Because I was doing many, many other things for the town. And any one of these people can sit and tell you what to do. So it's not, if you're finger pointing now, this is where you go come in. I
let's also answer the other question that you asked, was why is this agreement only for 10 years? Because that's all the state will allow us to contract for.
So then
It will
you
be
can't say
renegotiated, it will be renegotiated as it goes along, as it had been in the past.
But that's just me because I'm a little guy that's past that 10-year date. You cannot say to people they are guaranteed to stay at Wyndham. They're not after that 10 years.
There's
Am I misunderstanding that?
no guarantee that Wyndham won't shut us down. You cannot say, is there a guarantee that they will not shut us down? You cannot say that. They can say, at this point, we have no intention to do that. All we can say is we have a guarantee for a 10-year thing, which was the maximum that the state will allow us to write that contract for. It will be renegotiated as it goes along to make sure that continues, that availability continues. That's what's happened in the past. That's what will continue in the future. But when the state says you can only write that agreement for 10 years, we can't write it for 20 years. We can't write it for 15 years.
I didn't ask that. I clearly stated when I was speaking, there are guarantees. What we know is today.
Yes.
The data today does not support this.
We only know what we have today. We don't know what we have tomorrow for anything.
I just want to say I did volunteer for the committees. I sent at least 4 emails through the link. There was a link on the website that said, if you want to volunteer for a committee, submit this. And I did 4 times. I volunteered for a number of committees. I'm an attorney by trade, and I thought that negotiating withdrawal agreement would have been a prime committee. I volunteered for every other committee except curriculum because I don't teach. I'm not a teacher. I don't want to tell teachers how to do their job. When Teresa and I got engaged in another issue separate from this, I mentioned that I was frustrated by my lack of response, nobody reaching out. I had at least 4 times begged to be on a committee. I even stated the committees I wanted to be on. Then she engaged me and said, well, the one that really needs your help is the curriculum committee, the one I had admitted from the beginning I had. I don't feel like it was a process. And a similar situation I had in Raymond, which just so you know where I'm coming from and my tone might be coming from, I was the president of Raymond Rec. You're hiring a rec director. Raymond Rec runs every program in this town currently, until you get a rec director, And I called up the town and said, wait, I hear you have a committee interviewing a rec director. You have anyone from Raymond Rec on there? Well, you just started Raymond Rec. We don't really know you, so yeah, no, sorry, you're not really eligible to be on the committee. As the president of the group that runs the recreation activities. So if you want to know where maybe my ire, my passion, my frustration with this town comes from, that's it. That's it. And input is important, and engaging people is important, and getting buy-in is important, and it doesn't always feel like that is valued here. And yes, I have a different opinion sometimes. Sometimes you'd be shocked I have the same opinion as you. Well, I value local control.
May I ask you why you keep looking at me?
Well, I don't know. Your American flag is the most interesting of the bandanas. No, it's not. You're maybe not the selector, so I feel like I'm not attacking the people currently sitting there, I guess. It's probably, but no, it's not. The camera probably can't see who I'm looking at, but I'm not intentionally looking at anyone. I'm telling you where
kidding, by the way.
My frustration comes from, where you can see where my tone, my cries, like Teresa's talking about, because I feel like input isn't valued.
I'm just trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
Add one thing to that, please. I scheduled 8 distinct separate budget meetings. I had 0 show up for 6 of them. I believe that you gave me some input at one point in time. And Kate did also. And that's where our community involvement is. The biggest part of this budget process. Nobody wants to show up and do any work. And that includes the school staff.
I think you could have scheduled a meeting with school staff during school, or right after school hours, and I think they would have come. I may be wrong.
I just wanted to clarify that step 15 is the 22-step process.
Oh, it took you that long?
I saw step 3. Yeah, wait a minute. I think we're on 14 because we had it scheduled for 35 days beforehand for the date, so that's step 15.
Well, the commissioner notified us yesterday.
Okay.
He gave that notice.
And we would probably be jumping to 16 pretty quick.
And all the rest of the steps are around the election. We'll get public hearing before the election. Schedule it.
I just want to clarify, this is to you, Teresa, I want to clarify a statement, because you and I have been communicating on social media as well.
Yep.
Reference volunteers for sports. So the rec department in this town, I'm not sure what you're paying our rec director for, because he has not done anything, and I have been told that he's been moved to a part-time position as well.
No, he's a full-time position, but what happens is he came on and we got COVID. So what we did is we tasked him to go to Tasseltop first, because he is now taking over Tasseltop. And we also have campers there with reservations and stuff like that. And so then he's bridging out from there is what he's doing. I understand he's worked with Mark Anderson, he's worked with Ray, he's worked with some different people, and yep.
Okay. So the rec department covers pre-K through 6th grade. For middle school sports, 7th and 8th grade. So for middle school sports, you need a parent who's available right directly after school. That's why normally it's teachers who volunteer, do an amazing job. Mr. Keller, Mr. Powers, I could go on and on about all Dean and Osler, all the wonderful teachers who volunteer for those. Most parents in this community are not available directly after school for middle school hours to catch the bus and take the students to where they need to go. As a parent, I had a 5th grader who started JSMS as a 9-year-old. Okay? We should not be having our 9 and 10-year-olds on a school bus with 13 and 14-year-olds going. They have some nights they're not getting back till 8:30. I don't want my 9 or 10-year-old, no offense. I'm going as a teacher. I don't want my 13, 14-year-old with 9 and 10-year-olds. They're too developmentally different and way different places in their life. So I just wanted to clarify that for you. It's not that parents don't want to. Because quite honestly, all of our rec programs we would not have if it were not for parents in the town of Renton.
So can I ask you a question on that? So they're saying, okay, so pre-K through grade 6, they're on the rec.
It's the rec program.
Okay, so for school games,
For 7th and 8th grade only, because most of the schools that we play, their middle schools do not go down to 5th grade. So with the exception, I mean, I'll give you an example. We have basketball.
yep.
We play Lake Region. You've got some kids there that are 6'2", full facial. They're playing God's creation. I'm putting my 70-pound
Yeah.
at the time 5th grader. I mean, that's like stupid. Like they hold the basketball like this, like nothing would happen, right? So it's not physically possible as well as logistically. The logistics aren't able to be there. Does that make sense?
So,
I just want to
right, no, and I guess I'm
And
still
there
trying to
is
figure
one
it out.
exception, Teresa, cross-country does start
Yes,
at 9,
cross-country.
because that's not competitive, so the height we.
But we're talking about current situation.
Just a minute. The microphone has a hard enough time picking up when one's speaking. If 3 or 4 are speaking, it probably can't pick it up. So
Okay, so ask a clarifying question. So 5th graders right now really don't have any school sports.
They can do cross-country.
Yep.
Because those buses go very quickly, they run, do their thing. Some of them are very fast, but
They can do it after school for a bit.
yes.
Okay.
They're home very reasonable.
So you guys don't have like a school 5th, 6th program and then 7th, 8th program, like in the middle school? Okay.
Raymond Rec.
That's why, and here's the thing, so you need to understand as far as students as well, the size of our schools. If you look at the logistics of the demographics and the ages, we're either in some grades, a lot of boys, some grades, a lot of girls. So that's why, being in the RSU, a number of our students, we have one kid who's really, truly interested in doing the ski program. We have 2 that wanted to do swimming. We don't have the numbers to be able to have a field hockey team, you know, and all of these other teams, even if we included 5th and 6th grade. But again, you've got to compare to the schools that we're playing to. We can't have an 8th grader playing sports against a 5th grader.
I wouldn't have that. And I think listening to Sarah talk before that they had to bring a couple kids up to fill a team. But I also know, if I'm not mistaken, we're still on separate leagues. Like for softball and baseball, I think we play in one league, and basketball, we play in one league. And, when the
It's just
coach.
within the last year and a half that we really established a relationship with Wyndham's basketball program for the younger kids.
Okay.
Like our sons right now have an opportunity to play in Wyndham. They're doing a program outdoor, coaches are volunteering their time, which is giving our boys an opportunity in 8th grade to play basketball with people they will possibly be playing basketball with for the next 4 years.
But is that a basketball camp? Is it a basketball summer program? Is it a
program? The two coaches decided to get together and find funding within the community of Wyndham and extended the opportunity to students in Wyndham.
Okay.
No, it's free.
So this is good to hear this. It is, because trying to break that down, because I think I was got done talking to somebody the other day, and like they said the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I'm like, well, what about 5th graders? You know, they're just kind of like there, and then the school not understanding what to do. So.
Well, that's why they're in different wings in the school too, right? Like the 5th and 6th grade. I mean, quite honestly, in the H, that Ms. Jordan Small, the 5th and 6th stay in their wing. The 7th and 8th stay in their wing. Like she has a daughter in 5th grade. My daughter was very excited because she's in 7th grade this year, but she actually saw her passing at the water fountain because they have such little time with each other.
Yep.
And our students go to, as I understand it, we have a number of students that go to Wyndham for field hockey because we can't field the field hockey team. And the coach is actually from Wyndham, but she sends her kids to Raymond, and she has recruited a lot of our Raymond kids that want to play field hockey to go to Wyndham. Those are opportunities, unfortunately, at the middle school level, we won't have in the future.
Well,
I think you still have the numbers to fill to offer all these amazing programs that a lot of our does.
Right.
You know, we have different numbers in field hockey. You know, some of my daughter's friends go and play in Wyndham because we don't have those here. But taking us out of the RSU, it's not a guarantee that they'll still be able to play all the sports, especially after the contract ends. But us as a community in Raymond, we don't have the numbers to bring in. I know the other night when you and I were talking over Zoom, it was, well, let's just bring in wrestling. We don't have.
Me? No, I didn't.
You and I were talking about sports, because I run Wyndham Rec.
Oh, you're Mandy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go. Well, no, hey, hi. Yes, all right, as soon as you said yes.
Mark and I run the softball group. But if you want to try to bring those in, we don't have kids to have any sports. Because it takes, 13 kids to make a soccer team. Okay, 3 of those or 4 want to play, or they want to try wrestling. Well, there goes the soccer program. We just don't have enough students to fulfill all of those sports that being in the RSU allows us to have.
So with that being said, I know for a fact that Wyndham used to have a huge wrestling team. Huge. That the kids would have to have wrestle-offs. This last couple of years, it's really dwindled down. So what they're doing is, I know they're hooking up with, I think, Ray and Gloucester, and I know that some of the kids here in Raymond, if you go down to the middle school, they like to do, they have these programs, I think, on Friday nights and Saturdays or whatever for teaching the kids and stuff like that. And I'm not assuming anything, but that still may be that open community thing back and forth where Wyndham, will you still take our kids to come down? And again, I'm not assuming anything, just saying no. Okay. Yep, right.
I get the feeling from the last 15 minutes of conversations that if we in fact withdraw, an iron curtain goes up with town line. I can't see that happening. I think the integrity of the RSU management and administration, the integrity of the Raymond administration, town people, they would not allow that to happen. It's about the kids. I can't, just see an iron wall going up. I don't think that's going to happen at all.
I just want to make a point. I've been in touch with Lake Region as well as the district officials. Both of the parents that I have spoken to, there have been drastic changes within their school environments that are not positive at all, and they are now sending their kids out of the district that they withdrew from. They're sending them back there because the level of education and I mean, do you know how many teachers are needed in the state of Maine? Quite honestly, the size of this district is beneficial to attract quality candidates. And people are fleeing for them for a reason, right? Staff included, okay? Because of how things are run. So it's very important to understand, as a professional, I want to go to a district where I'm going to be creating opportunities with students as well as professionally. The level of services that are being provided by the RSU now is drastically different even just 5 years ago. And the improvements that have been made since Superintendent Powell has gone into place. Amazing. And I'm not just saying that because he's in the room.
He's making notes.
But I just want to make it clear, like, the school board is receptive. I reach out often, very often, to always answer my questions. Because I'm very concerned about everything. The level of our special education, again, 5 years ago, the curriculum coordinator and the special ed director are amazing in the district. For a reason, and I don't think we'll get that level of staff. I think we will see people leave the district and go to someplace to provide a little more opportunities if we compartmentalize ourselves. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm going to go way out on a limb here by saying you would think the teachers have the students in mind rather than themselves.
But it depends on where your school board decides. If you put them in a box and tell them this is the budget we're going to work with, it can become frustrating. I mean, that's part of why so many people are leaving Portland, because their places are not being
For a lot of reasons.
well, that's where I work, so. We don't have time to talk about that, so, but yeah, a lot of reasons. But that is one of the reasons they do not feel supported or listened to. And so, I mean, you brought up that, but I haven't been spoken.
Just one comment and a question. I just wanted to share a positive experience that I've had with the school board, because I think it's given this to the RSU, because it's so easy to focus on, we have different ideas, and I think that's all welcome, but, so, I'm new to the, relatively new to the RSU, I've been in Raymond for 10 years, but I know that's new for some folks here, but my oldest is now in 2nd grade, and last year in funding for Community Life, I don't think everything's perfect. There's always, everything everywhere can always be improved. And I asked for a meeting with school administration last fall. Within 24 hours, heard back and was immediately invited in for a meeting, shared a variety of, I wouldn't call them concerns, but areas, opportunities that I saw. Volunteered to roll up my sleeves and help organize some parents to get it done, recognizing that no matter what school district you're in, the staff and teachers are overextended for all the reasons that we know. And the one thing that we all went on was to do outdoor classrooms, and it was so inspiring. I said, we need these outdoor classrooms, please, and everybody said, yes, we do. I asked Ms. Peavy to schedule a meeting, when would be the best time to schedule a meeting with staff. I think this is important for everybody as we move forward, regardless of what happens. She invited me in to speak at a scheduled staff meeting, so we're not putting more burden on overextended teachers. So we put a survey out ahead of time to teachers. They filled it out. We came up with a plan based on the results of the survey, and the district presented that to the teachers, got additional feedback, met with various people in the RSU, from Bill Hanson to Tom at the RS, and worked with the Boy Scouts who are from all over the district, from Raymond, from Wyndham, and from some other towns, to get these 3 gorgeous classrooms done in less than a year. Met with the school board in the interim, they all liked the idea. They also did the approval because it was a physical building. And I just present that to say that there are ways to get really impactful things done and really positive changes done within the current system, and in fact, that's encouraged and supported. So I just wanted to share that. And this was an inspiration, because you were one of those calls, and with your experience from the playground, was even a larger project. And I'll say we did that at completely zero cost to the RSU, all of everything was volunteer. My question, which is more logistical, is right now, preschool is, I'm sorry, it's all about the kids, and I have kids that fall into this category. Right now, preschool is full-time,
board can choose either one of them, enough room for both. In my personal opinion, full-time pre-K is dangerous for the kids and for the staff.
Dangerous?
Yes.
Why?
How are you going to keep those kids separated 6 foot apart from pre-K?
Wait, I'm sorry, so now we're talking about COVID considerations.
Yeah, I'm talking about reality. That was the logic behind putting in enough for Plan A or Plan B. Or chooses.
How do you think daycares have, I mean, I guess Teresa, she runs a daycare, I mean, yeah, they've been open longer than our schools have, and they haven't had outbreaks, so I thought it was an interesting.
I know, I have my bubble kids though, but now because we have school kids coming in, we're even more precautions, and we've got to wear masks in the 5. And we do have, in school though, they are exposed to a lot more people. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot.
Okay, so I guess I understand that, yes, this will be challenged there. I guess my question, and I know we're not supposed to focus on the budget, but I do have a budget question, is if we were to go, I'm just trying to understand. Was there a transportation cost added into this budget for the half-day pre-K? Because I assume you would need to run a whole nother bus route to keep the same service.
What transportation costs are you talking about?
Well, if it's a half-day
if we
pre-K, there's gotta be a midday bus route, right? Because right now, the pre-K kids are on the bus.
What about the equipment on the buses?
What?
What about the equipment on the buses?
The what, sorry?
What about the equipment on the buses?
What equipment?
I don't understand the equipment, I'm just
Do they have
asking.
seat belts? Do they have car?
They don't, that's actually part of the question too, is there part of the budget to add? I'm just trying to understand the background, what's being considered or not. Because if right now, what we have is full-day pre-K with transportation included, and we said everything.
I see.
I understand, I'm not trying to.
No. I see, because this is a big issue. Let's put preschool full-time in the budget. And then
It's in there.
full-time, all day. Not half day.
For 20 students, it's in there.
All day or half day?
Kate suggests that we can only go to 16. Great.
No, that's a state mandate, I didn't suggest that, it's a
Well,
state
sorry,
mandate.
state, as remember, speaking for the state, said,
But for full-time,
Which means
15
so,
full-time, right?
15 full-time.
and since we are talking about.
That's what I'm thinking too, yeah. Nope.
I have a follow-up on that. So in the budget, if we move it to full-time, my thought, and I could be wrong on this, that you have 2 assistants for that room. Weren't they part-time, each one was part-time?
And that's another suggestion. Plan A, full-time, 1 lead teacher, 2 assistants, you can call them tech ones or whatever you want to call them, 2 assistants.
But do they work full-time or part-time?
Full-time, I said full-time.
Because I thought you had once said
Wait,
part-time.
let me finish. Plan B, half-time pre-K, 1 full-time teacher, lead teacher, full-time. If the school board chooses, you've got 1 half-time at tech for morning and 1 half-time at tech PM afternoon. Or 1 full-time or 2 full-time for each one. It doesn't matter to me. It's in there for 20 people, 3 staff. I am not about to go tell Randy how to run his operation.
It'd be Beth, it'd be Beth Peavy, not Randy.
Or Chris, I'm not about to tell him how to run his operation. I budgeted enough money to serve both masters. You choose.
So 3 full-time, 3 staff all day for 16 to 20. Great, thank you, that's, I was just trying to.
Which gives you a ratio of 5 to 1, I think.
I think that's that.
I thought earlier you had said,
I wanna piggyback on something that you were talking about before, when you were talking about the outside class and things like that. None of that would have been possible had it not been for the town of Raymond getting a bigger piece of land than the state would allow for that school. The state said, we'll only allow you this much for that school. We bought this amount. That gave us additional things there. That is the things the town of Raymond does for the schools. The helping to build that and things, That was done by an Eagle Scout. The Eagle Scout, who was a Raymond person who came in and did that. He got other troops involved in there, and that's where the outer line thing came from. They didn't just come in blindly and say, oh, let's go and help there. He organized all that. That was organized by a Raymond person going out and finding the people that help get that done. Those are the type of things that the people of Raymond will do for the school.
So I just to correct that because I'm in that troop. My husband is a scoutmaster with the Rebel Troop. And we do things as a troop. It is the Eagle Scout to organize. That's the whole point, is for them to lead. I connected the Eagle Scout when we heard about this project. There are Eagle Scouts. We go to Eagle Scout projects in Wyndham and serve together with them. We go to Poland, we go to wherever. That's part of the Boy Scouts of America experience. To create a young man or a young woman now, men, that can be a leader and take on initiative. And so then it was, and there were parents on both of our committees in that territory that were Wyndham parents with Wyndham children in our schools. So it is not, it wasn't just a Raymond team for either one of those circumstances. It was both needs.
What I'm saying is the Raymond person, that was his Eagle project, the Scouts do a very good job of making of getting all the other units involved and things like that. But the core of it was a Raymond Scout that organized that project. He got help from other people. When ones in Wyndham have one, they get our Scouts go and help there. So that's, that is one of the nice things with the caring of the Scouts. And that's.
Do you know why Grogan chose that? He didn't even go to school here, maybe. He went for 2 years. Do you know why Grogan, the Eagle Scout that did the project, did it at RES? Because he didn't go to school here. He goes to school in Portland. He did it because of Janet Cummings, he was teacher. So, I mean, if we're going to get into the details of that, what it's about is that the purpose of the Eagle Scout project is to serve your community and to give back to people like Janet Cummings, who has done so much for our community. Our troop has tried to repay a small portion to her of what she's given to our community. It's supposed to be in your hometown. This is his home, he's my neighbor. This is his hometown. His family and I are friends. He wanted to serve Raymond because he was so appreciative for the foundational start that teachers like Janie Cummings at RES gave him to start.
And that means a Raymond resident doesn't negate the fact that it's a great effort.
Can I just have it, go Chris.
I was just wondering if I could just clarify something, because Teresa, you had acknowledged, first of all, thank you for letting me speak for a minute. Teresa, just want to clarify something on cooperative teams and middle level, and actually cooperative teams in general. So cooperative teams work when you are relying upon the two schools to get enough numbers in order to be able to run a team. Where school districts run into trouble with cooperative teams, and let's say you have 23 kids from one town and 2 from another. When you try to do a cooperative team like that, oftentimes that other town 2 is excluded because those 2 kids would be preventing some kid who might be kid number 23 from participating. So here's a kid from an outside community. So typically the high school teams, in my experience, when you have one kid who might be coming from another town, it doesn't work well because it's eliminating some other kid who might be from the community in which that's happening in order for them to play. So I just want to clarify what I know.
No, I thank you for that. I really do, because I just know from the wrestling before we pulled in some other kids, but no, thank you for that.
Yeah, and the other thing I just want to, while I'm here, I just want to talk about Jordan Small for a minute, because I know it's come up in a couple of Zoom meetings. I know the history of Jordan Small, I know the history, and I think it was 14, 15, where the board looked at the option of Jordan Small, and nobody's denying that that was also happening. And I just want to put some of that in context, which is that the RSU had 2 aging middle schools. One was Jordan Small Middle School, the other one being Wyndham Middle School, changed the whole discussion as far as what the future was in terms of middle school. Because even in the cost sharing agreement, which is very clear for school projects, Wyndham's responsible for its cost, we're responsible for its cost. Wyndham is very aware that any additions to a new Wyndham Middle School is going to be the responsibility of the Wyndham taxpayers. So if they want to build a bigger cafeteria, both what you suggested, buy a little bit more land, or do other things, Wyndham taxpayers know that they know that. What my biggest worry, and actually Teresa and I had a great phone conversation earlier today, my biggest concern, what I've been working on, and probably none of you are even aware that this is happening, is that we hired an outside consultant who has designed schools all around the world to look at what does middle level education look like, go through a visioning process, because we're only going to get one shot at the middle school, we want to make sure it goes right. In addition, though, that same person has been working with Randy and team leaders to look at, we're going to be building some sort of classroom structure or opportunities for kids to live them. We better be building the exact same things for middle level kids here in Raymond. And so it may be at some point that we're going to be coming before the select board to say, Randy and his team have identified some renovations that need to happen to join small in order for some team concept pieces, for some additional programming, some expansion to the stage, cafeteria, which could be a little bit larger, and of course you could do one lunch. Some possible additions that may be coming forward, but the whole conversation changed in 2018. I just want you to know that you probably don't know any of this has been going on. It probably hasn't been super public. I think it appeared in one newsletter I sent out, and nobody knew what was happening anyway, so because of the volume. But just know that right now, Georgia Small is a priority. It has been a priority. We've been putting money into it. As I also shared with Teresa, I'm a very firm believer that schools are part of the identity of the town. And Raymond needs to have a strong elementary school, and needs to have a strong middle school. There's no question about it, and those things need to be maintained. So I just want to be clear, I know it's been thrown out there, definitely was passed in 2014, but please know that that is not the direction our team is talking about. We've invested a significant amount of money in the last 3 years into upgrading the plant, the roof, the siding, making sure, but we have other plans for it that we hope to have that opportunity. November will tell. The citizens of Raymond will need to determine which direction that they want to head in at that point. But after that, then going forward is we have some plans for that place.
Thanks for that, Chris.
So I just had, and I know we're trying to wrap things up, but I just had, I have a meeting at 3. That was actually just a phone call about it, so sorry I had to skip out. But I know, Marshall, you're working on updating the very much estimated budget, correct? For the next slide?
No.
Okay, so are we?
No, please.
Go ahead.
I understand there's input coming from administration, which we will discuss, and if it's applicable, we will put it in. I have not moved the 22,000 out of special ed into CIA yet, but those two things are the only ones that I'm aware of. Okay.
So my question is, what about the extra bus that Randy has requested?
That goes, in fact, we get it, and that goes in.
What do you mean if we get it?
If they approve the bus. I am not aware that they've approved the bus. I know he's requested it.
Isn't he requesting it moving forward? Because we only put, maybe I misread that email. The email that.
No, please. Randy has requested a 7th bus. As far as I know, that has not been approved. If it gets approved between now and November 3rd, I'll put it in the budget.
Am I misunderstood? Did he
Has
request
he
it to
requested
us?
it for this in the proposed budget or for the school budget?
No. What he said, he looked in the withdrawal agreement, there's certain buses and certain vans that are there. And he said, is there a way to have one more bus and 2 less vans?
The original plan, as I understood it, the budget was 6 buses, 4 vans. Randy came back to me and asked, could I see if a 7th bus was possible? And being a little bit flip, I said, would you trade 2 vans for a bus? And I'm not sure where that stands. I have not been informed of any decision whatsoever. So therefore,
You can't change the agreement now.
Right,
The agreement's the agreement, that's what you have.
but I can't change the budget either on an unknown.
Right, so I mean, if you want a new bus, the new school board has to put in for a new bus in front of the town. Whether it gets state funding or not, that's up in the air.
Okay. And so then too, if we are adding stuff, or debating if there is additional things, I would say that we would want to make sure that any bus that does pick up a pre-K student would have to have seatbelts on it.
I would assume whatever buses we have for pre-K, we would inherit.
It's my understanding the buses that we're getting in the withdrawal agreement do not have seatbelts on those.
That's not really fair for us. I think I would have to.
That's
why I asked the question of Kate, whether you could put on the buses.
Well, then I guess you would need to talk to the folks that did the withdrawal agreement because they don't have seatbelts. My next question is just understanding how you moved things, what you transferred over. So the bus that has the pre-K students also has an aid on there to help buckle the students. They have to be buckled.
I'm aware of what decision they made on any pre-K, and that's.
Okay. So this aid is currently in the transportation budget. So was that carried over when you carried stuff over?
Was the transportation pre-K in the V9 budget?
Yes.
Then it was carried forward.
I'm just gonna speak for Marshall here, I know I should be talking, but, I think you would have it within that budget, for the budget Marshall to pay for aid on that bus.
Okay, thank you. And then my last one is just a comment for folks, is we talk a lot about kind of having our control, and if we do withdraw, we would have our control for K to 8. I think last night's school board vote around high school sports really speaks volumes on how we would possibly lose control at the high school level. For whatever, well, I know the reason, we had more people at that meeting than we have ever had at any school board meeting, including the meeting whether we should open up our schools or not under COVID conditions, okay?
Let them play.
And we had some really good public input as well. The young woman who is our school board representative is a Raymond resident, and she does cross country. And she spoke last night about how she really wants to participate in cross country. The vote passed. It did not pass on town lines. It did not pass by a landslide. It was a 5-3 vote. The Raymond representatives didn't even agree. However, which is fine because we don't have to agree just because we live in Raymond, you know? I guess just what I'm saying is that young woman would not have had representation from the town that she lives in on the school board should we withdraw. And that, honestly, that worries me. Whether it's majority representation or not, she would not have had representation. So again, that is something that folks, whether they're watching this after or everyone here now, you need to understand that those kids 9 through 12, the majority of our kids, I understand some of them go elsewhere, but the majority of our kids will not have that representation. So that's just my last comment.
Chris, do you have student representations, or Jenny, your student representatives on the board?
Yes. Molly's has been our representation from Wyndham High School for 2 years. She's
I'm not trying to divert us.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Down into an authority position on the board. I'm just curious whether you had that opportunity for kids to stand up and say, hey, we need this.
As long as I've been on the school board, we've had school children, high school students, representatives. There have been, in the last 4 years, 2 from Wyndham and 2 from Raymond.
That's a good input from that level.
Right. They're wonderful, and they're very clear.
You had one in the school that I worked for. After you graduated from high school, you ran for the select board.
Yeah, listen, Molly's gonna rule the world, I tell you.
She's great.
She's wonderful.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming today. The next meeting is Tuesday at 7 o'clock at JSMS. Same rules will apply as far as masks and things like that. The seating will be spaced out kind of like you're seeing here so that we can maintain distancing and whatnot, but if people are interested, a number of people have already RSVP'd on that, but it's not to turn anybody away, but it's more to make sure that we're not over committing the room, because we have the maximum 50 rule in there. So if you know people that are interested, rsu.withdrawal@raymondmaine.org, send in a request, and that way we have a tally.
The meeting's at 6 p.m., right?
Yeah, I thought it was 7.
7? Why do I have 6 down on my calendar?
It's at 7 on the 22nd.
Because it was on Monday, we had the 6th one.
Alrighty. Better move that.
Thank you.
What?